Good evening, everybody. We're an hour and a quarter late. I apologize for that. As they say in the real world, you're not interested in excuses, and I won't give them to you. We're learning Maimed, and this is our fourth class on the Maimed Shoresh Mitzvas Hatefilla base, which is based, of course, on the Maimed from the Rebbe Rashab Mein Zayin, which begins Enu Rena. Now, we've had 3 classes already. The first class was an introductory class, talked about the Gemara and the question of 2 crowns and 3 crowns. And then the Maimer got into its discussion, which is essentially about 3 things, Yosher and Igulim and Atzmas. So 2 days ago, that must be Monday, we learned about Yosher. He gave a mashal of a chain. And he argued that the lowest links in the chain and the highest links in the chain are all interlocked, they're all connected. Excuse me for a second. And of course, this Yosher, this chain, represents a lakus, kav, in the wording of the Maimer that went through the Tzimtzum. The Tzimtzum changes it. It comes Vishini Hamahus. Then the Rebbe introduces us to the Igulim, eagle. An eagle doesn't have levels. An eagle doesn't have any relatedness to the chain, to Hishtalshlus at all. There's a quantum separation, there's a jump between Kav and eagle, between Yeshed and Igulim. An eagle comes from Lefnei HaTzimtzum in a process that's called Noga V'Yatzimtzum. It's not changed by the Tzimtzum. It remains Ein Seif in its own Mitzias, its own Mahus, but it's affected by the Tzimtzum. And again, the way I explained it to you, the idea of Noga V'Yatzimtzum of Igulim, is that it's not experienced by the worlds. The worlds do not experience eagle. It's hell and Noga V'Yelimus. In yesterday's class, the Rebbe discussed Igulim. 2 days ago, we learned about Yosher. And midway through the class, the Rebbe brought a mashal for Igulim of Yabosha and Yam, and then introduced us to what seemed like a very, very different concept of eagle, where eagle doesn't mean a level of elokus that does not come by Islapshus and Begilui, and it's Bakol Malkam Bishava, it's only that it's Behelim, but rather that eagle means Gili elokus. And the examples that he gave us for Gili elokus were all examples of Mamalik Alamed. The Sfidus, the Shabbos Yisrael, Mitzvahs, and then what he called Tachtayne Shabi Eagle is Malach. And yesterday in class I explained at length that this latter part of the Shir is Tzarechiyun, it's Shver, because it's L'chayra not consistent with how we understand the Igulim B'Yesher normally. Now today we're on page Shinches. We're going on to the third point of the Maimer, Perek Zayin. The Maimer Shoresh Gedimu Tafshin Yud Beis, Perek Zayin, which is going to be discussing Atzmas. 3 levels: Yesher, Igulim, Atzmas. So that's our conversation. And of course, when it comes to Atzmas, we say that Lei Noga by Tzimtzum Klal. It wasn't touched by the Tzimtzum at all. Now, Before we start to read, I would like to introduce us to one more anomaly, to one more thing about this Maimer which is unusual, which is different than many Maimarim. And after my preparing today, I sort of think that maybe what the Rebbe is saying is not so different from what you would normally say, although it's a little bit beneath the surface. And that is the following. There are three levels in Ein Sof, three levels in godliness. Yesher, Igulim, and Atzmas Ein. Otherwise called Tzimtzum, Naga B'Yad Tzimtzum, and Lei Naga B'Yad Tzimtzum Klal. In many Maimorim, including the very first Maimer of our Rebbe, Basil Gani Tavshin Yud Aleph, which is based on the latter part of the Samach Vav, the very beginning, he explains the following: that there are three levels of Ein Sof Lefnei Tzimtzum. There's three levels of Ein Sof Lefnei Tzimtzum. The lowest level of Ein Sof Lefnei Tzimtzum is called Gilul Yatzmai B'Shvila Elamis. It's a Gilul Yatzmai because it's Kolol Batzmusei, but it's B'Shvila Elamis. And this lowest Madrega, Gilul Yatzmai, which is B'Shvila Elamis, is where there's Alei Saratz, the will for creation exists. It's also called Esesfiris Agnuzis or Shemis, Lashon Rabba. Then there is the second level of Ein Sof Lefnei Tzimtzum. It's called Gilul Yatzmai, which is B'Shvila Yatzmai. It's Kolol Batzmusei, and it's not Shaykh Elamis, which is the Mokar of Seif of Kalalman. This level of Ein Sof is otherwise called Sfiris and Kates, or it's sometimes called also Antuchad. Antuchad V'lei B'chushba. The third level of Ein Sof, which is Etzem of Ein Sof, doesn't have Sfiris at all. These three levels of Ein Sof, classically, typically, normally, would be parallel with the three discussions in our Maimer. Yeshu would be associated with the Madrega of Ein Sof, which is Gilul Atzmai, which is B'Shvila Elamis, which is the Makar of Mamalik Alaman, and Alei Saratzim. And Igulim would be associated with the middle Madrega, Gilul Atzmai, which is B'Shvila Atzmai, which is the Makar of Seif of Kalaman. That would be the Madrega of Igulim, or we say Naga B'Yad Tzimtzum. And Etzem of Ein Sof would be associated with the Madrega of Ein Sof Lefnei Tzimtzum, which is also called Etzem, as Naga B'Yad Tzimtzum Klal. Yesterday, I observed, and since yesterday and today I've had a chance to sort of think it over and sort of calm down a little bit from his spoilers, I pointed out very emphatically that this Maimer is different than typical Maimorim in terms of how he explains Igulim, since he includes Sfiris in Igulim, and Neshamis in Igulim, and Mitzvahs in Igulim, and even Malachim in Igulim. Now, I don't have a resolution to the kashas that I asked yesterday, but they don't bother me as much. But they see this shyness, which I'm not going to get into at the moment. We're going to learn now about Etzem, the highest Madrei. And as far as I can tell, there are no more surprises. We're not going to have any ideas here, which are going to sort of be inconsistent with how my mother normally speak. Except for this, that in the very beginning, the Mamish, the first words, the Rebbe is going to say that Etzem of Ein Sof comes from Madrega of Ein Sof, which is Kedem Alei Saras, before the first will. Before the will, Alei Saras. This is problematic. This is a kasha right away. And again, it's particularly a kasha since we know that this is based on a Maimer in Ayin Zayin, which is after the Samach Vav was written, after the Ayin Beis was written and said, where these ideas had already been flushed out. Because Etzem of Ein Sof does not come from Ein Sof, which is Kedem Alei Saras. Etzem of Ein Sof comes from Etzem of Ein Sof Lefnei Tzimtzum, which is higher than the whole Inyan Agilin. It's not even Gilul Yatzmai B'Shvil Atzmai. Another contradiction, another inconsistency between these Maimorim and the typical version. In other words, normally we would align the three ideas of this Maimer with the three Madrigas of Ein Sof Lefnei Tzimtzum. It says Yosha would be aligned with Gilul Atzmai B'Shvil Elamis or Ratzon. Gul will be aligned with Gilul Atzmai B'Shvil Atzmai or Seviv. And the Etzem will be aligned with Etzem. When the Rebbe says here in Mamish, the first words of today's Shir, that Etzem of Ein Sof has to do with Ein Sof Shekedem Alei Saratzon, that's again inconsistent with the Maimorim. And if this Maimer was based on a Maimer not from Tafresh Ayin Zayin, but from Tafresh Nun Zayin, it wouldn't be such a strong kasha. The fact that it's based on a Maimer from Tafresh Ayin Zayin makes it particularly problematic. Now, there are purists, there are people who would say, why are you mentioning the Rebbe Rashab, learning a Maimer from the Rebbe? And that's a fair criticism. But if that's the case, If it would have been a question in Tafresh Ayin Zayin, it's certainly a question in Tafshin Yud Beis, where the ideas had been so flushed out. Why would the Rebbe go back to say that Etzem Averin Seif is from Elikus? Shalamaylam Elei Saratzen, it's much higher than Elikus, which is higher than Elei Saratzen. But later on in this Pedic, the Rebbe is going to say something which may actually answer this anomaly. Because later on in this Pedic, the Rebbe is going to talk about the idea of Bechira, and how Bechira is higher than all Madregas of Ratzon, including Ratzon HaMuchot, Batzmusei. So I'm saying this in my introduction, I don't know why, but I'm saying this now, that it's possible that the resolution to my question, that in this Maimed Etzem Averin Seif, which is Lei Nago by a Tzimtzum, is Kedem Alei Saratzon, that L'cha'ere Kedem Alei Saratzon is a Madrega of Gilui, and Etzem Averin Seif is higher than Gilui, it's because he doesn't mean Alei Saratzon the way it's understood conventionally. He means all of the Tzeinis, till Ratzon HaMuchot Batzmusei, and Etzem Averin Seif is even higher than that. So in preparing today, I calmed down a lot from yesterday's feeling that the Rebbe, the Maimed is going away from the typical classic Maimonim. Even though I don't have a teretz to my kasha, but the kasha badat does a film with nesibis. But today we're going to be talking about the third madrega, Etzem Averin Seif, that's loy nago by a tzimtzum klal, and the Rebbe is going to say that it's Averin Seif shekedem alei saratzon, which is a red flag to maskilim. If you're not a maskil, this doesn't bother you, yeah? If you're a maskil and everything has to have a place, kedem alei saratzon is gilui, and etzem is higher than gilui. So I'm thinking, based on what the Rebbe is going to say later on top of page Shin Yud, that when it says kedem alei saratzon, it means including Ratzon HaMuchot Batzmusei. Even though you cannot call Ratzon HaMuchot Batzmusei alei saratzon, but perhaps it means that all the Tzeinis, love all Yom Ratzon. Anyway, I'm pointing out that there's another kasha in this Maimed against the tradition, against the standard. I'm suggesting that maybe there's a way to resolve it, that when he says Alei Saratzon, he means all the Tzeinis. And I'm conceding that it's not such a good resolution, it's not a perfect solution to the problem. I'm done with my philosophy speeches, with my Haskalah. Let's get to the Maimed. Okay, let's say it again. In this Maimed, there's three levels. There's Yosha, which the way this Maimed plays out, Yosha is a source of godliness that's concealed. There's Igulim. The way it plays out in this Maimed, Igulim means is the source of godliness which is going to be revealed in the world. And then there's Etzem. And Etzem is Lei Nago by Etzem Tzim Klal. Let's start to read. Perek Zayin. Achidei Lo B'Lebechinas Ein Seif Shel Lei Nago by Etzem Tzim. There's a third level in Ein Seif, which is Lei Nago by Etzem Tzim, and has not been touched by the Tzimtzum at all. It's not been touched by the Tzimtzum at all, meaning to say, it exists in the Makam HaCholol without any Shinoi. It exists in the Makam HaCholol without any Shinoi. It existed before the Tzimtzum. And it exists after the Tzimtzum, the same Makam HaCholol without any Shinoi, which really means that it's present here in the space of the creation. And you could even say in a certain level that in as much as you could say about Etzem, it's Behizgalos, nothing is blocking it. It's not hidden. There's not even a Nago by a Tzimtzum change. It's present in the Makam HaCholol. And the Rebbe says, that this level of Erin Seif, which is called Lei Nago by a Tzimtzum, is higher than Alei Saratz. And you'll see soon that this is a reference to Etzem of Erin Seif. Atzmos of Erin Seif, which is Kedem Alei Saratz. Sharei HaTzimtzum Bechinas Alei Saratz. The Tzimtzum happened at the level of Elukus, which is Alei Saratz. Now, according to what we're reading it in this Maimah, you have to say two things. That Tzimtzum happened in the Madrega, which is Aliyah Saratz, and Nago Bayat Tzimtzum happened in the Madrega of Aliyah Saratz. The middle Madrega, which is the Mokar of Eagle, Nago Bayat Tzimtzum also has the Madrega of Aliyah Saratz. Because we're saying here that Lei Naga Be'erin Seif Shekedem Alei Saratz. The level of Elukus, this Lei Naga Bayat Tzimtzum, is Kedem Alei Saratz. So this is an anomaly. This is different. That both Madregas, Madrega of Elukus, which is called Tzimtzum, which is the Makar of Yesha, and the Madrega of Elukus, which is called Eagle, which is called Naga Bayat Tzimtzum, Makar of Eagle, is also associated with Ratz. Because only the Madrega, which is called an Atmos of Erin Seif, is the Lei Naga Bayat Tzimtzum, is Kedem Alei Saratz. This is very different than the typical, than the normal. And again, before I suggested a pshat, maybe you want to call it a pshetel, but this is not the way it normally is in the Maimorim. And then the Rebbe add, this is Bechinas Balaros. the source of will. The source of will. And maybe these words, Balaratzin, also support my tenets, that we're talking even higher than Ratzin Muchad Batzis. So the Rebbe says like this: you want access to Atmos Avein Tov. You want access to the Madrega Velakus, which comes into the Makam Acholo, in a way of Leinaga by a Tzimtzum Klal. Harei and Nas, this only happens by the Neshama Lamata, by the Neshama descending into a goof. L'slabish b'nefesh habahamis, to engage with, to interface with, to be revealed to, and be affected by the animal soul. Levarada, to clarify, to l'zachacha, to purify b'chuli. This is how you access Atmos Avein Tov. Now, how do you access the first two levels? How do you access Yosher? How do you access Igulim? He didn't exactly explain. He simply said that there's a level of Yosher, there's a level of Igulim. But how to access Atmos Avein Tov, he says, is by fighting with the Nefesh HaBahamis. Now, I want to make an observation. Okay, this is a Haskalah observation, but I'm assuming if you're listening to this class, you're a shtickle maskel, yeah? Atmos Avein Tov, this loy naga by atzimtzum, doesn't need a means to reach. This loy naga by atzimtzum. The meaning of the words loy naga by atzimtzum klal means it's here in the space of the creation, just like it was before there was a world. So it's completely revealed. There's absolutely nothing hiding it. There's nothing preventing any human being from accessing Atmos Avein Tov. There is something preventing a human being from accessing Kav, the Lukus of Kav, because of Tzimtzum. There is an aspect that's preventing a human being from experiencing Madrega of Eagle because it's touched by the Tzimtzum, Naga by a Tzimtzum, that is a state of Helam. But Atmos Avein Tov, this Lei Naga by a Tzimtzum Klal, there's nothing preventing us from experiencing it. Here the Rebbe says, you want it? It's Aideridis Hanasham Lamato, the Savish B'Nefesh HaBahamis, Levarado Zachacha V'chu. And the Poshet Pshat is, the simple answer to the observation I just made is very, very simple. Atmos Avein Tov is here in the Makam HaCholol. And Atmos Avein Tov is B'His Gas in the Makam HaCholol like it was before there was a Tzimtzum, because Lei Naga by a Tzimtzum Klal. But you and I can't experience it. Why you and I can't experience it? Because it's Etzem. And Etzem means it's not available to Zulas. That's the meaning. So Atmos Avein Tov is Lei Naga by a Tzimtzum Klal. In other words, it's completely present. It's available here, as it was before the Eibush made any changes to affect the possibility for Amidas Elmas to be a creation. And we don't feel it, not because it's not here. We don't feel it, not because it's not available, because we don't have the neurons, we don't have the receptors to experience Atmos Avein Tov. So the Rebbe says, you want to experience Atmos Avein Tov? Fight with the Nefesh HaBahamis. So what I'm suggesting is that it's not the pshat that's the beater of the Nefesh HaBahamis, you're mamshech Atmos Avein Tov. It's the pshat, the beater of Nefesh HaBahamis, you mamshech Atmos Avein Tov, to you that you should experience Atmos Avein Tov. Because Atmos Avein Tov is naturally here, because it's Lei Naga by a Tzimtzum. Lei Naga by a Tzimtzum means it's not affected by creation. Just before the Eibush created the world, it was here. And it was what it is. It's here, and it is what it always was without any shinui. So it's available. It's similar, not the same as, but it's similar to Hamoyru Bezgalos. Hashem is here. Hashem is present. The fact that we don't jump up and down because Hamoyru Bezgalos, even though it's a fact Hamoyru Bezgalos, and there's even a raya, the Shem Shemaim Shagam Tzvikela, Filim Fe'amarot, and so on and so forth. It's not because Hashem is not here, Hashem is not revealed, but because the nature of His Mitzias is Helam Ha'atzmi. So what the Rebbe says here, that if a person wants to experience Erein Seif Shalei Naga by Atzimtzum, which he's calling Kedem Alei Saratz, or Bechinas Baal Aratz, it requires to engage with a fight with the Nefesh HaBahamis. So what I'm saying is, when you engage with a fight for a beater of the Zichach of the Nefesh HaBahamis, you're not Mamshech Atmos Avein Seif. Atmos Avein Seif doesn't need Amshach. You gain access to the Hergish of Atmos Avein Seif. And we're going to read on. Now the Rebbe is Mazba Anyin and Avodah. Why is Atmos Avein Seif only Negeya if Mevared the Nefesh HaBahamis? Hine. There's basically on the Avodah. This is Mamish and Avodah this year. It's the next shtikele. It's pushed Avodah. Yeah. And then it could, of course, is there's Avodah Api Seichel, Avodah of Mesiras Nefesh. And if you want to experience Atmos Avein Seif, you have to do an Avodah of Mesiras Nefesh, which in the narrowest of senses is by fighting with the Nefesh HaBahamis and the Yetzer Hara. There's two ways to serve Hashem. There's Avedas Nefesh Elokis Mitzadat. There's the way the divine soul serves Hashem in and of itself. And then there's Vavid also, the Nefesh HaBahamis, when the godly soul chooses to engage in bringing clarity to the animal soul and the struggle that entails. And what would be the difference? If a person did the avoid of nefesh elokis mitzad atzmo, and a person did the avoid of bitter nefesh bahamis, says the Rebbe, the difference would be as follows. Shavei des nefesh elokis mitzad atzmo, if a person is engaged in serving Hashem with the divine soul alone, it's engaged in a service which is reasonable. Reasonable means it approaches things reasonably. Reasonable means what it does is reasonable. And reasonable means what it's gaining as a reward is also reasonable. As opposed to a service that involves bringing clarity to the animal souls, as the Heilig Ereb Huinyin Shal Mesiras Nefesh. It's a concept of Mesiras Nefesh, which is L'mayla Mitavadas, it's beyond reason. And he spells it out, the Hine. When the divine soul is involved in serving Hashem by itself, it cannot be the true idea of Mesiras Nefesh. This is a very funny statement. It's a very funny statement. When you serve Hashem with your neshama alone, you can't tell Mesiras Nefesh. Why is that a funny statement? It's a funny statement because every child has learned Tanya. And they know from Tanya that the whole lineage of Mesiras Nefesh comes from Nefesh Elokis. Neir Hashem Nishma Sodav, it says in Tanya chapter 19. The Yechidah Sheva Nefesh is like a fire, and it's prepared to become connected to its source at the expense of its own identity. And the Alter Rebbe's Lashon is Kach Retzeina B'Tiva. It's beyond reason. So the Nefesh Elokis is entirely capable of Mesiras Nefesh. Here the Rebbe makes a statement. As a matter of fact, the Nefesh Elokis is not Shaykh the Mesiras Nefesh, but he has one word, Lamitasi. Shahadei. And he tells you why. The Nefesh Elokis, described in Tanya chapter 19, which is real Mesiras Nefesh. Yechidah is revealed, right? Yashabod, the Yisayim. But Vara, Munah, by the Shem Echad, right? He wakes up from its sleep. V'gam Nitova, and it's prepared to be Mesiras Nefesh for the Eibishter. But that's not Mesiras Nefesh Lamitasa. You know why? Push it. Mesiras Nefesh in Yonah, Mesiras Eras. Mesiras Nefesh doesn't mean I give away my life. It gives away my interest. Giving away my will. Now, the Nefesh Elokis gives away its life for the Eibishter. Why? Because that's its will and that's its interest. So when it says in Tanya in chapter 19, and he's describing the fire, the candle of the neshama, he doesn't talk about the Nefesh Bahamas being included in the Mesiras Nefesh. He's speaking about the Nefesh Elokis alone, running to Hashem, so it's sacrificing itself completely. But it's sacrificing itself completely. That's what it wants, to be one with HaKadosh Baruch. It says that when you speak of the divine soul, it desires godliness. And he brings in Tanya chapter 24, that a neshama is loyal to HaKadosh Baruch Hu even while it's sinning. Overpowers it because of the principle, which is in the Chitas of today, Wednesday, Pashas Seder, Pashas Nasi. When you put the neshama in the most difficult conditions, the neshama is under stress, under duress, under pressure from outside, right? There's a goy or goyishkeit, which is challenging a yid, Rahman al-San, to do something which is not supposed to do. And the person has to overcome that challenge. Even if it involves Mesiras Nefesh, so the Rebbe says these words: the oppression is from the outside. In other words, mitad the Nefesh HaBahamis goes to the animal soul, which we're going to talk about later. But there's no way the godly soul could ever find itself in an oppressed state. Sins because in and of herself, it's attached to the Eibush. So the neshama finds itself in a difficult condition. From the neshama's angle, the solution is to run to Hashem, whatever it costs, even if it costs its life. So the Rebbe says a very fascinating thing. In Tanya, the Alter Rebbe describes the Yechidah Sheba Nefesh. He doesn't use the word Yechidah, because in Tanya the word Yechidah never appears. He uses the word Chochmah. But whatever he calls it, the Chochmah of a Yid is running to the Eibishter, L'mayla, he calls it Teva. Teva means there's no explanation. The Teva Zeh, Hushem HaMushal L'chol Dov V'She'eni V'Chinas Tavadas. The word Teva in this case means something which you can't explain. Says the Rebbe, it's not Mesiras Nefesh. Because it's not Mesiras Haratzon, this is Hashlamas Haratzon. It's doing exactly what the Neshama wants. And the Rebbe explains this idea that the Neshama's Haratzon is the Eibishter, And therefore, when the neshama does Mesiras Nefesh, it's not Mesiras Aratz, it's Kiyam Aratz. And therefore, it's not, to use the words of the Rebbe exactly, Loi Shaykh Inyan Mesiras Nefesh Lamitase. It can be illustrated by going back to the difference between Malachim and Neshamas, which we had in Perek Vov. Now, you should know that this discussion you have also in Samach Vov. The end of Samach Vov, there's a very big arichas on Malachim and Neshamas, and he says very similar things. Here's just a few lines. There's time to take it. Okmation is Bailo, we discussed on the previous page. I have for Malachim and Neshamas what separates angels from souls. Malachim are created to be an entity unto themselves. They're Metzias. And the word that I like to use is nivdal or nivro. They're identifying first with themselves and then with the Eibush. Ash'enken and Neshamas, as opposed to souls, Shemahusam yad vegas melekos. They're dvegas. They're not a Metzias. They're not nivdalim and nivroim. They're like the Tias. Or the Alter Rebbe says, Tanya Chof, Yersek Yedish Chof. Yotzuv and Nifredu, but they're alakus. The reason for this difference is the fish malachim, angels come from speech. He says in the pasuk of Baruch, called Savam, all creation are created with speech, including malachim. Therefore, the way they come into existence, they're a form unto themselves, or like I said before, they're nivdalim. Nivdalim may mean separate from Gashmis, but also means separate from Malakus. And Beruah, Nivroim. That their own body and their own soul, which is distinctly identified separate from Malakus. Souls come from thought. And because they come from thought, souls don't have their own form. Their form is Vegas and Malakus. Now you should know that the neshamas have a characteristic which is very unusual. It's the only thing which has this distinction. It's called a lakus shenas and nivra. A neshama takes on a metzias. A malach is a metzias. A neshama takes on a metzias, or takes on a bria, takes on a havdalah from a lakus. And when you look at a neshama and a malach lamayla in Gan Eden, you don't see the difference. They both appear to be metzias. They both appear to be nivdal. They both appear to be, in the words of the Rebbe, chayve v'tzura, nivraim. But when push comes to shove, when it gets tough, the malach fails, and the neshama reveals its nitzalaki, its godliness, and that's why neshamas are able to serve Hashem even, under the most difficult of conditions. Like I mentioned to you in the Shir of yesterday, that it says in Vayigash and Samaches, which is part of the Hemshech Samach Vav, Vayipak Bapak Nishmas Chaim. When the neshama was put into the guf, it was done with the gvura, because it wants that the neshama in the guf should have access to the koyach of Yechidish Nefesh, the koyach of Mesiras Nefesh. Now I want to tell you something. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm going to do it, okay? If you're familiar with Hishtalshlus, all creations come from Machshava, and all creations come from Dibur. Right? It says that the Neshamas come from Machshava and Malachim come from Dibur. Malachim also come from Machshava, but they come from a lower level of Machshava. Neshamas come from a higher level of Machshava. And because Malachim come from a lower level of Machshava, when they are spoken, they become separated from their Shadish and Machshava. The Neshamas Yisrael also have a Shaykhis to Dibur, but because they come from a higher level of Machshava, when they're spoken, they have still a Shaykhis with Machshava. And yesterday I gave you sort of rules in Kabbalah. These are these are facts. These are facts that I collected when I was younger and more pious, when I used to actually learn Hasidus. That there's 4 levels. There's Pnimius of Pnimius HaKelim, that's the Shoresh of Oisius HaTorah. There's Chitzonius of Pnimius HaKelim, that's the Shoresh of Mitzvahs. There's Pnimius of Chitzonius HaKelim, that's the Shoresh of Neshamas Yisrael. And then there's Chitzonius of Chitzonius HaKelim, that's the Shoresh of Malachim and Nivraim. And somehow in this mix, these expressions, that Neshamas come from Machshava and Malachim come from Dibur, plays out. That even though Neshamas also come from Chitzonius HaKelim, because they come from Pnimius of Chitzonius HaKelim, they have a Shaykhis to the Yin of Machshava. And since Malachim and Nivraim come from Chitzonius of Chitzonius HaKelim, when they come Lamata, they're separated from their source. V'lachein, as a consequence, Gam b'yislap shesem b'nefesh bahamis, a neshama, when it comes into a body, an animal soul, the tzeinim hi be'elokus, it still desires godliness. U'b'meilo l'shayich etzal mitas inan mesiras nefesh. You take a malach, you put him into this world, history has proven it's a disaster. It's chaos. Malachim are much holier than us, but because we're in a holy world. You take that malach, you put him into this world, he doesn't have access to the inner strength necessary to be godly. He becomes an animal, literally. and a supreme animal, and I mean that in a negative way, not in a positive way. And the neshama doesn't seem better than a malach. But when you challenge a neshama, you see its inner strength, that it comes from machshava, it comes from gevura, as an inner power, which shows itself in the Inyan Mesiras Nefesh. Why? Because that's the real Ratzon of the neshama. That's why the Rebbe says, even though all over Hasidus, when you talk about Mesiras Nefesh, we talk about the Neshama, right? Mesiras Nefesh comes from Yechida, that's Nefesh Elokis. Tells the Rebbe the Mesiras Nefesh of the Nefesh Elokis is not real Mesiras Nefesh. You know why? Because it's not being Meiser, it's Ratzon, it's fulfilling its Ratzon. So Mesiras Nefesh has been cancelled. It's been cancelled. No Mesiras Nefesh. If you have Mesiras Nefesh, it's because you have a Ratzon for the Eibishter. Ratzon for the Eibishter, it's not Mesiras Nefesh, it's Mesiras Ratzon. How does that work? And the answer is going to be Rabbi Yisai. When the Nefesh Elokis activates his Keich Mesiras Nefesh through the Nefesh HaBahamis. The Nefesh HaBahamis also wants. Because the Nefesh HaBahamis is Mesiras Nefesh, is Heipech Eitz Ratzon. It's the Mesiras Haratzon of the Nefesh HaBahamis to not be a behemoth and to sacrifice itself al lakus. Everybody's going to say at the end of this paragraph, it affects, and the Nefesh Elokis also, it's called Mesiras Nefesh Lamitas. Let's read. But the Rebbe, the Hinei Nefesh HaBahamis is the animal soul. Ella, it's only. Nefesh Elokis by Ella, the Yinam Mesiras Nefesh bin Nefesh HaBahamis. The divine soul can inspire self-sacrifice, real self-sacrifice, real Mesiras Nefesh in the Nefesh HaBahamis. And when the divine soul inspires real self-sacrifice in the Nefesh HaBahamis, that's Mesiras Nefesh Lamitosa, because it's Heipech Etzei. And he explains, the Hine. Nefesh HaBahamis Lamata Yesem Imalach. The animal soul is lower than angels. The godly soul is higher than an angel. And an animal soul is lower than an angel. Now understand, animal souls are created from what? From speech. Just like angels are created from speech. But there's levels in speech. And there's different things that are said, huh? The angel wants ruchnias, but all within its own mitzias. Nefesh HaBahamis wants pizza, you understand? They want Zvarim Gashmi. Or like a Yid once said to me, his son was my student, and he said to me, I walked into his store, he says, Makar Zayin Manyingos, goes back many, many years. That's been Makar of my son. And I sort of looked at him saying, I'll do my part, but you're his father. So he says, Ich can him give him steak. I'm a good father, I can give him steak. But the connection to the Mebish, this I need you for it. That's how he phrased it. The Nefesh HaBahamis wants Gashmi. Says the Rebbe, Heipech Melokus is the opposite of godliness. Because there's a classic idea in Chassidus and Kabbalah, which is very nerve-wracking, but nevertheless a klal, that there's no benign, there's no parif. If it's not bottle, then it's the opposite of it. Let's clear. And if and when the divine soul influences the animal soul, that it should become holy, says the Rebbe, this is Inyan Mesiras Nefesh, and of course you want to add the word emes. Because of the Nefesh Elokis, there's a nature for Mesiras Nefesh, there's a tever for Mesiras Nefesh. This is words from Tanya chapter 19. So the Rebbe here is saying, because Kachir Etzayne B'Tiva, it's not Mesiras Haratzon, it's Kiyam Haratzon. But if you get the Nefesh HaBahamis to go in that direction, that is Mesiras Haratzon. Now the Rebbe spells it out more specifically, and he uses the words iskafia and ishapcha, head. There's something called bending the Nefesh HaBahamis, and there's something transforming the Nefesh HaBahamis. The difference between bending the Nefesh HaBahamis and transforming the Nefesh HaBahamis is, bending the Nefesh HaBahamis would be convince him that he wants it. Convince the behemoth that he wants it, or she wants it. However you convince, using reasoning, using emotion, using whatever tools. Transforming the Nefesh HaBahamis is getting the Nefesh HaBahamis to literally hate the fact that she's a behemoth, or that he's a behemoth. We'll see it inside. So again, the Rebbe is going to use the words iskafia and ishapcha in a very unique way. And he's going to say that the true idea of Mesiras Nefesh is not the Nefesh Elokis. The true idea of Mesiras Nefesh is the Nefesh HaBahamis, because that's Heipech Etzei, doesn't want to be Mesiras Nefesh. And he's going to specifically, or in detail, articulate that when you're talking about this idea of the Mesira of the Nefesh HaBahamis, there's two levels. One is the equivalent of iskafia, which is sort of halfway there. And the second is the equivalent of ishapcha, which is the full idea of Mesiras Nefesh. Let's learn. This itself, the primary Mesiras Nefesh is. It's not on such a level. Listen carefully to the words. The divine soul is a smart guy and understands. Nirgash gam B'nefesh habahamis, the animal soul feels ha'ila the kedusha, the advantage of kedusha. So if you're such a deep intellectual that you can understand godliness in a way that your animal soul desires God, you can almost say that that's animalistic. It's another desire. Instead of wanting pizza, it wants the Eibishter. So the Rebbe says, "Shadein ze elad." This is only mashe nefesh elokis koife. It imposes, it forces on nefesh habahamis and kedusha, on the animal soul matters of holiness. So this doesn't sound like force. Educating, teaching somebody is not force. When somebody understands something, he's able to explain to somebody else that they should understand it. When someone's excited about something and they're able to sell it to somebody else that they should be excited about it, you can't call that force. But it's not transformation. It's not making the animal soul not be an animal. It's just redirecting its animal desires. So he calls that iskafia. It's a different notion of iskafia than we think of it in convention, but it's iskafia because the animal is remaining an animal, just being redirected. Avol nefesh habahamis atzmo nish'era b'yeshusa v'chul. The animal soul is still an animal, and it's still a yesh. It's just being redirected. Kim, when is there true mesiras nefesh of the nefesh habahamis? The true transformation of the nefesh habahamis, which is the only true concept of mesiras nefesh, mesiras haratzon, shebeyesa, when the animal soul is b'mamod or matzav in its own disposition. She'eino shayeches lahargir kedusha. You're not educating the animal soul, making him say that, yesterday I enjoyed pizza, today I want to enjoy a maimer. You tell the animal soul to get pleasure from godly things, or to be excited and inspired by godliness, which he called before iskafia. He says that's not mesiras nefesh, it's not total transformation. And the Rebbe says in Yiddish, sie weiß nicht und sie fühlt nicht was kedusha is. We're talking about the animal soul that has no chush. You're not educating it, you're not inspiring it, you're not sensitizing it. It's not being brought to godliness by being educated. None of us should end. Nasa etzlo hametzer. The animal soul simply starts to hate itself. Not because it knows what God is, but because it's sick and tired of being an animal. Shalei tev lo, that it's not good for her. Meha and yonim shalaf, and the things that she is busy with, because she mepech hakadusha, the opposite of holiness. When the animal soul starts to hate herself, now you get into the realm where there's a possibility for the animal soul to want to go out of itself. And then you have the inyan mesiras nefesh b'emes. And he explains. The Kiv and Shinyan said, this condition where the animal soul comes to see itself as meitza. Nefesh habahamis is against the nature of the animal soul. So here are the words. Hareze amitis inyan mesiras nefesh. That's true mesiras nefesh. Why is it true mesiras nefesh? Because you've just changed the will of an animal to have a divine will. You haven't changed the will of an animal to a divine will by educating it. That would be iskafia. You've educated the animal so to have a divine will by hating its animalism. And that's sabcha. That's mesiras nefesh be'emes. She'nepechas kedusha. That in this circumstance it's transformed. So you see, before on the line that began with the word shahareh, you have the word koife, and here you have the word she'nepechas. So I'm reading into these. The Rebbe here is using the word iskafia and sabcha in a slightly different way you would expect in this maimer, as I explained. If and when the divines can affect, then in the animal soul there should be a mesiras nefesh. Says the Heilige Rebbe, the divine soul goes up to a higher level. And the Rebbe says, when the godly soul brings the animal soul to mesiras nefesh, by hating being an animal, by being transformed to kedusha, the godly soul also experiences the inyan of mesiras nefesh. I want to share with you two vertes from the Rebbe. The first I remember that the Rebbe spoke. There's a tape of it, there's a video of it, this goes around a lot. But I was there. I had the chus to be there. That the Rebbe was talking, I was in Shana Rab, and I remember where I was standing in Shul. The Rebbe was talking about Mashiach. And he spoke about the idea that Golos doesn't make any sense. He asked a simple kasha. Why is it that Golos doesn't make any sense at all? That was the kasha of the Rebbe. What would happen if Golos made sense to us? And the Rebbe's answer was that if Golos made it sense, it would take away from the Admasa. For you to Yishreif and Admasa, B'chol HaNefesh, B'chol HaMahus, Golos has to be totally senseless. And in the course of that conversation, the Rebbe said, the Nefesh HaLekis Doesn't make a difference. Because Nefesh Elokis, wherever it is, still Lakus, like I just said in our Maimon. But does a Nefesh Bahamas, it makes a difference. And they never cried out, will nicht sein kein Behema. The animals also want to behema. When the Rebbe said those words, he broke down and he actually turned his face away from the crowd because of his emotion. Will nicht sein kein Behema. This moment, that the Nefesh Bahamas is not encouraged to like godliness, but says, I hate being an animal. That's Mesidus Nefesh Be'emes. And the Rebbe says it affects that the Nefesh Elokis also I didn't Mesidus Nefesh. And the second thing, I didn't hear this from the Rebbe, but this is quite famous, and it's said in the Rebbe's name. When somebody asked the Rebbe, that it says in Chazal, that tzaddikim cannot do tshuva, right? But tshuva hard than tzaddikim, it's a Gemara, it's a Zoya, it's a Rambam, it's a Chasidus. That about tshuva is higher than a tzaddik. You know, INF, it's not fair for the tzaddik. So the Rebbe answered they should be asik in making by the tshuva. The madrega of tshuva is reached by a tzaddik by bringing other people to tshuva. That's what the Rebbe said. So here the Rebbe is saying it, the Nefesh Elokis achieves tshuva, or Mesidus Nefesh, be'emes, by bringing the Nefesh HaBahamis to tshuva, by bringing the Nefesh HaBahamis to Mesidus Nefesh be'emes. The key of Anjabakeyach HaMavilas is sin to take a great miracle. Mislabesh, as Nefesh Elokis be'Nefesh HaBahamis and the two join, right? Like it says in Amo, right? It's footnote 68. These are all very, very famous ideas. That the very meaning of the Neshama and the Guf Nefesh Elokis Nefesh HaBahamis is a miracle. Hare, emphasis, Hamut, to the Nefesh HaBahamis, the animal soul's feeling of being suppressed by its own animals. Nasag HaMamut, Shalosh Nefesh Elokis, becomes a sense of being oppressed of the godly soul. That the godly soul is in the body with the animal soul. And it's engaging with the animal soul. It's trying to get the animal soul to identify that it's an animal and to dislike animalism. So in that process, the godly soul experiences the Beitzah of the Nefesh HaBahamis also. When the godly soul feels the Meitzah of the Nefesh HaBahamis, it's not a foreign Meitzah. But the reason it's not in the previous page, he said it is a foreign Meitzah. Here he says it's not a foreign Meitzah. The reason here it's not a foreign Meitzah is because Nefesh Elokis is engaged with the Nefesh HaBahamis. If Nefesh Elokis is engaged with his own stuff, so the Meitzah of the world is not a Meitzah to the Nefesh. But if Nefesh Elokis is engaged in helping the Nefesh HaBahamis identify the Meitzah of the Guf and Elam Hazeh, and to get out of it, then it makes the Meitzah of Nefesh Elokis as well. It becomes a narrowness of the divine soul. Through the Nefesh Elokis, being Mavada the Nefesh HaBahamis and bringing it to Mesidus Nefesh and to Tshuva Nasa Bo Zchadash Bo Inyan Mesidus Nefesh. The godly soul also has Mesidus Nefesh. And the Rebbe says the Neshama, being based on Nefesh itself, is not going to be Zeichet Atmos of Edin. When the Nefesh Elokis goes into the Nefesh HaBahamis and is Mevaded the Nefesh HaBahamis on a level which is called this Hapche, that Nefesh HaBahamis hates being a behema and it wants to be one with Elokus at a level of Tshuva and Mesidus Nefesh. This is how the Neshama is able to experience Atzmas of Edin Tzayif, which is called in our Maimon Lei Naga by Atzim Tzim Klau. Why? So he explains. This avodah that we just described. That the divine soul affects Mesidus Nefesh of the animals. By days, and Mesidus Nefesh, so that there's Mesidus Nefesh in the godly soul also. It says the Hey, look at Rebbe Magas, it touches Bishor, Shosh Nefesh Elokis, the root of the Nefesh Elokis. Kifi Hishim, Moshe Bo Atzmas Davka, the Nefesh Elokis is Momed Atzmas. And because this exercise of the Nefesh Elokis being Mislavish of the Nefesh HaBahamis, bringing the Nefesh HaBahamis to Mesidus Nefesh, and in so doing, revealing the Mesidus Nefesh of the Nefesh Elokis as well, is because it's allowing the Nefesh Elokis to get to its essence. Like I explained to you before, but close. But it says in Vayigash, in Samaches, the Sugi of Gvuris, that in this world, the infinity of the Neshama shows itself. Lamaila, there's no need for infinity. It's order. It's Seichel. In this world, there's challenge, and because there's challenge, the infinity, the power, the infinite power of the Neshama shows itself. It never shows itself more than when there's challenge. So it's the Nefesh HaBahamis and its challenge which reveals the infinity of the Neshama, including what the Rebbe calls Shar Shal Nefesh Elokis Kifi Shemesheshes Ba'atzos. And he explains it in Kabbalah language, in classic Kabbalah language. Tell you one tikkun stuff, basic stuff. The godly soul comes in the world of order. The animal soul comes in the world of polarity, extremes. And we know that Tayu is Kadam L'Tikkun, the world of Tayu in its source is higher than Tikkun. Everything is extreme, everything is infinite. But it's not sustainable. And therefore, so first let's state the obvious. The Nefesh HaBahamis is Aglim Nisa. The Nefesh HaBahamis is stronger than the Nefesh HaLakis. So how does Nefesh HaLakis overcome the Nefesh HaBahamis? The Nefesh HaLakis is lower in its Shadish of the Shadish of the Nefesh HaBahamis. So that continues. The Nefesh HaLakis Levarin is the Nefesh HaBahamis, the very effort and the success in the effort of the divine soul engaging with the animal soul to uplift it. It can't possibly be from the surface levels of the neshama versus Nefesh HaBahamis. Why not? On the superficial level, the animal soul is stronger than the godlies. What's the fact? How do you see it in psychology? The nature of an animal is when it has a will, it's incredibly strong. The nature of an intellectual is even when he wants something, he has many different wants, and they cancel each other. The urgency of the will of a behemoth is much stronger than the urgency of the will of a human being because it's so potent, so simple. No, so how could the Nefesh HaLakis mevara the Nefesh HaBahamis if the Nefesh HaBahamis is stronger than it? And the tendency is element of it comes from the place which is higher than the shadish, the direct shadish of the Nefesh HaLakis and the Nefesh HaBahamis. I know. There's a level which is higher than Teyu. And the level which is higher than Teyu, I guess we would call it Igulim, even though in other Maimorim they connect the shadish of the Neshama to Igulim. These are kashas for another time. Because Shasham Tev and Tikkun Shav, right? In Ishtashlus, Nefesh HaLakis is from Tikkun, Nefesh HaBahamis is from Teyu. And in the Madregi, which is higher than Teyu and Tikkun, they're both the same. And if they're both the same, how do you guarantee Nefesh HaLakis is going to win if they're equal? Elam Havachina, but there's even higher than that. There's a fourth level, but there's a level of the Nefesh HaLakis. There's a level which is the shadish of the Nefesh HaBahamis. The level where they're both equal, right? And then there's a level where the Nefesh HaLakis is stronger than the Nefesh HaBahamis. This is a level of Eyev, Shabanem of Eyev is Yaakov, right? Och, Ezev, Yaakov and Ezev are brothers. They're the same. I don't see a difference. And in Kabbalah, this is the Chetzenius HaMakiv, where we say Kachashech HaKaira. And then you say, Besech Lahasam La'ela Asa, Mata Aksa the Yisrael, goes on Pnimius HaMakiv, where you say, Eyev is Yaakov, even though it doesn't make sense, I love Yaakov and hate Ezev. In other words, logically, there's no difference between Esav and Yaakov on that level. There's no logic at all. And Mitzad Atzmos, the Eibush prefers Yaakov over Esav. Says the Rebbe, Shazal Kvisha Neshel Kismo Shachas Ba Atzmos as the Neshama is Omer Atzmos Esav. And on this level, the Neshama is stronger than everything in the world. And this level is really the Madreg of Atzmos Eidin Seif, Nagabaya Tzimtzum, as the reason of Yiddish and Neshama. In other words, our Maimon is saying that if you want to experience Eidin Seif, Nagabaya Tzimtzum, which is called Atzmos of Eidin Seif, you have to bring a Nefesh HaBahamis to Tshuva, because what it's really doing is revealing the shadish of the Neshama, which is the same as the Atmos of it in Seif Nagabaya Tzimtzum, what you want to experience. The mind when he brings that eye, like it says in the Medrash B'minim, Melech B'nish B'seim, Shal Tzaddik. The Eibush that created the world, he consulted with the Shoresh Mitzvas Shal Tzaddik. The Rebbe says in parenthesis, V'yesh Gam Girsa B'nefesh Shal Tzaddik. And I wonder what the difference between Nefesh and Neshama is. My hunch is that Nefesh is lower than Neshama. Right? Nefesh is the lowest level, Neshama is the middle level. But I could argue that Nefesh is the highest shadish, higher even than Neshama. And I'm thinking that's the difference between the two girsas. Or to be sure, why the Rebbe mentions the fact that there's two girsas. Says the Rebbe, the Ginamlach, with the idea that Nefesh consults with Neshama, says the Rebbe, it's b'madregi shalamayla mi'aratz. It's the level which is above Ratz. And which Ratz? Yevul and Samachei, Yevul and Toshin Gimel, there's three Ratzanis. There's Ratzna Golui, there's Ratzna Nelam, which is called Roshus V'Ratzna, and then there's Ratzna Mochel Batzmos. See, so I told you in the beginning of today's shir that the Madrega of Alei Saratzna may include all Ratzainis, because as he's going to say it over here, look inside. Kivan Shanimlech B'nish B'seim Shal Tzaddik. Whereas the Eibish's involvement in the world was based on his consultation with the Neshamas of Tzaddik. Harish Neshamas Yisrael. So the Yiddish Neshamas with whom he consults is a Maila Gam Bechinas Rasna Muchla. It's even higher than the absolute will of Hashem. Vayodam Hi Hachatzarat. That's the Eibush that makes the determination for the Ras. So first of all, I want to insert something that the Rebbe doesn't say in this Maimon, but on later Maimorim that I would say it incessantly, non-stop. There's the Teiros HaMagid, one of the Rebbe's favorite Teiros. Again, Metonin Zog Nishmua Zuna, but the Maisa, the Rebbe's Teiros HaMagid, he kochs in it. He said Rosh Hashanah for so many years in the Maimorim. So the Magid goes on the Medrash Yisrael Olav Machshava. This goes on the Medrash B'mi Nimlach, and we connect the two Medrash B'mi Nimlach and Yisrael Olav Machshava. Yisrael Machshav means that Yidden entered the Eibishter's thought. So it says in Sfarim, maybe it's even a Medrash, but it certainly says in Chassidus, Mebechinas El Yeinish Shal Machshav. Yidden entered the Eibishter's thought. So we say all over Machshava means Machshava at the level of Aliyah, the highest level of Machshava. You have this in Samach Vav, Ba'arichis, and those Maimonim, Samach Zayin and Samach Ches that I mentioned before. So the Rizitcher Magi Taiched, was man Yisrael of Machshava, you have a Mashal. A child is in his father's imaginings. A child is imprinted in his father's memory. And the Hebrew word that I use is chokuk. It's hardwired in, it's ingrained, it's carved into his memory. He'll never forget how his child was. Once he sees his child, even if the child goes away, even if Chas V'Shalom the child passes away, in the moyach ha'avetz chokuk, it never goes away. But by a physical parent, there's one basic limitation. And the limitation is there cannot be a chakika of your child that hasn't been born yet. Because you don't know how he looks. You don't know if he exists, will exist. Only once the child is actually born and exists, and you've seen him, so then even if that child passes away, goes away, me'al ponov, the chakika is there. But the Eibishter is above Zman. So if you compare Yidden to the Eibishter to Yidden, to parents, that Yidden are the Eibishter's ben Yachid, and they're chokuk koyachol the machshava of the Eibishter, like a child is chokuk in the machshava of his father. But by the Eibishter, there's no Zman. That means Yidden are chokuk and nafsmas always, always, always. And always means not from the first seminal moment of the Eibishter's contemplating creation. Always means where there's nothing but Eibishter, the Yid already exists. And that medrash is very often connected to this medrash of B'min Ilach. Yidden are really one with the Eibishter's thought. And with them, the Eibishter consults. In other words, the Eibishter is anticipating the Nachas Ruach that you get from them. That's the consultation. If you should create a world. And then begins the creation itself. And the process of creation begins with Ratzon. And Ratzon has 3 levels, including Madrega, Ratzon HaMuchlat. Now, how Ratzon HaMuchlat is a Madrega and how Ratzon HaMuchlat is triggered, these are very difficult and complicated questions. You can learn the Maimorim in Samachei and Tafshin Gimel, and after you're done learning all the Maimorim, you'll only know how difficult it is. As anybody who's tried it knows. But the bottom line is that Rebbe's proposing that the Yidden's Shadish is even higher than the Ratzon HaMuchlat. The Hine. And he explains. This the will of Hashem, which is called absolute, the highest of the 3 wills, which basically means a will which is not expressed at all. It's a will which is the person's nature. And of course, we're talking about the Eibishter that way. It's different than Ratzon HaMuchlat by a person. How so? Ukamei, for example, Ratzon HaMuchlat, Ratzon l'bayis. The idea that a human being needs a home. Sheshnei b'teva talas. Look at that word teva. By the nature of one's birth. As the Gemara says, Kol misha en libayis en libayis you have a home in that amesh. Says the Rebbe, to be sure, you know why in a human being, misha en libayis en yadam. Ima yes, to be sure, hasiba lakach. You know why it is a human nature that you have to, as the Lashon of the Fidik Evasiches, Nazai not possessor. If Rambam Vinik not possessor, you have to own land. Because that's what it is by the Eibishter. That Shetiferes Adam Lashev is bias. That Adam Ha'elyin wants to have a bias. Because Nisava Kodesh Baruch Hu Liyas Liyas Baruch Diri B'Tachtenu. Hashem desired home in the lowest levels. So desire, of course, is very supernal, very beyond understanding. And therefore, Hashem wants a beautiful home. That's why the nature exists by people. Nevertheless, there's a basic difference. When you say that a human being has a Ratzon HaMuchlat, you're basically saying that a human being has been branded with a certain personality type. It's who he is. It's not what he does. It's who he is. If it's in your nature to need a home, this is you. So you have no, what's the right word? You have no liberty when it comes to your Ratzon HaMuchlat. It's like having liberty over who you are. But by the Eibishter says that it's different. Even the idea that the Eibishter has a will, which is called the personality of Atzmas Amos, is based on his choice. By a person, your personality was his choice. The Eibishter chose your personality. You just play it out. So your Ratzon HaMuchlat Batzmusa really is the source of your motivation. And not a symptom of your motivation. It's who you are. That's what you do. It uses the word teva. Teva is a bad word. Right? When you talk about Teva and Nefesh Elokis, it means you can't understand it. You talk about Teva and Nefesh Bahamas, you mean it's a limitation. But Teva means something which somebody else imposed upon you, and on simple levels you can't do anything about. Rasna Muchal Batzmus is Teva. But the Eibish, the Rasna Muchal Batzmus is Bechira. What motivates the Bechira? Before the Teva of Rasna Muchal, the Minimlach Benish Meseim Shal Tzadikim. V'cheinu Gam Rasna Muchal. Says the Rebbe V'Arotzan, V'Achlotas Arotz, the decision that the Eibush should have imprinted in his teva, in his etzem, a will for creation. How can you choose to have a certain personality? Is a very interesting concept. Is identified with Israel Dafka because of the Jewish people. Because the root of it is above not the revealed will, it's above will altogether, and the Rebbe calls it here bebechinas ba'alaratz. And I want to stop and remind you what I told you at the beginning of the Shir. In the beginning of the Shir, I raised a question that this Maimed is full of anomalies. There's things about this Maimed that are not consistent with all of Chassidus. And one of them is that he calls Atzmas Avein Seif. And I told you that doesn't make any sense because Kedem Alei Saratz is what they can give Atzma B'Shvil Atzmei Makar Seivim Kolaman and on and on and on and on and on. But you see, now you understand what the Rebbe meant. When the Rebbe said here, Kedem Alei Saratz, they didn't mean Alei Saratz in the lowest level of will, which parallels the lowest level of Avein Seif Shafnei Atzimtz. He meant Ratzon period. The Ratzon Hagoloi and the Ratzon Hanelam, which is called Machshava V'Ratzon or Menusa de Malka, and even the Ratzon Muchot. A Yid is Moshe Shanatzmas hiding all those Ritzenis. So at least this kasha, at least on some level, l'cheda we answer. That even though the Rebbe is saying that le'noga b'tzimtzum is l'mayla me'al leis haratzin, it doesn't mean a leis haratzin and beat the nuts altogether. Atzmas. It says they look at Rebbe b'bechina zu, and in this level, the way a Yid is one with the Eibishter, higher than the Eibishter has a ratzin amuchlet, higher than where the Eibishter has a ratzin amuchlet for Elameis, as if you were to say that his personality is to want worlds. But for the Eibush to have it, Asna Muchad has to be before it. A Bechira, the Rebbe says the Mamish in a few words. Magas ha'avodah debira nefshabans. When a Yid engages in an animal soul, and he doesn't only educate the animal soul, which means he's bending her in godly direction, but he's transforming the animal soul by making the animal soul hate being an animal and want to run out of its animalism and do an inyan of Mesidus Nefesh Be'emes. The koyach that the Nefesh Elokis draws on to affect this is the way Moshe Shanatzma was higher than all Madreges of Ras. From this level, it's the source of the power for this. Says the Rebbe, in this level, so that means that any human, any Yid, who serves Hashem and is engaged in fighting with the animal soul to make the animal soul not just into a mensch, but ois behema, not an animal, by running away from the Meitzah, is drawing koiches Nefesh Elokis on this level. Well, Inyan Bazeh, the pshat is as follows, and the Rebbe goes off into another sugya, which is another whole controversy. Abed 10 shudas, the whole thing is 10 lines. And I believe in Ayin Zayin, it's also Bekitzit, not that Bekitzit it is here, but it's also, this is Faninezes, this whole Maimed. I didn't look up the Tzanir then, I learned it years and years ago, but it sounds so familiar, almost point for point. There's the classic question. Avodah tzedach gavaya or lav tzedach? Does Hashem need what we do, or does Hashem not need what we do? Does Hashem care or not? So the Chaykirim say, Avodah tzedach gavaya b'tmiyah, Hashem doesn't care. And the Mukubalim say, Avodah tzedach gavaya b'nichus. Hashem does care. When you say that the Mukubalim say that Avodah tzedach gavaya b'nichus, that Hashem cares, this goes on Yechudim. This goes on Avodah Teireh Mitzvahs, Eidus and Kelim. Okay? What about higher than Yechudim? Higher than Eidus and Kelim? So this is where our Maimah comes in. This is, of course, the famous Maimah L'Tiyah Mishakela, which is based also on Ayin Beis in the second Chelik, that higher than Atzilus Teda and mitzvahs doesn't matter. In Atzilus, Avodah Tzedek Avei means Teda and mitzvahs. Higher than Atzilus, Teda and mitzvahs doesn't matter, but Birudim does. And that's what's negated to this Maimah. In other words, according to the Chekrim, Avodah Lav Tzedek Avei, it's all for us. It's all for us. According to Mekubalim, Avodah Tzedek Avei in Atzilus is Teda and mitzvahs. And according to Mekubalim also, Avodah Tzedek Avei higher than Atzilus is Dafke Birudim. Let's read it inside. The Pa'amah means sometimes it's written Shabbat She's all Leisim and saying Nishon Malkam when you do what Hashem wants. Mesif Mekech what are the strengths in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like it says in the Pasuk. Va'ata Yigdala Akech Adin like the Gemara Mesech the Shabbos. Lahei Pechas Hashem, the other side of the coin is Geshein Eisim and saying Nishon Malkam. When we don't do the love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kvayachal Matishim Kech Shalom, you weaken Elokus. Like it says in the Pasuk Tzur Yeladecha Teshi. And he teaches Tzur Yeladecha, the rock who created you Teshu, you weaken. That's what he teaches. That what we do affects HaKadosh Baruch Hu. No. So what we do matter or not matter? Well, the problem is sometimes it's written, does Hashem really care whether we shech the animal from the neck or from the throat or from the back of it? And we conclude that the only reason for the creation of mitzvahs is to correct people. So these two madrashim are explained to be Chakira and Kabbalah, classically, right? According to Chakira, it's mitzvah for us, not for him. And according to Kabbalah, Avodah Tzedek Avei, Mesifim wurde, Kech wurde in the Lakus, and we affect Teshias in the Lakus. But then you have Maimorim who want to say that even what Chakira says has a place in Kabbalah. The idea that V'chima Ichbas Le Nitno Mitzvahs El Tzadeh Ben Asabriyas, that the Chaykim say it's only for us, it's not for him. The Kabbalah also spin in that direction. How? Higher than Atzilus. It's explained, when it says in the Medrash Ma'ich Baslei, does Hashem really care? And the answer is, which conventionally means he doesn't care at all, is spun around America, one to the opposite extreme. Our Teiru mitzvahs he doesn't care about, but our Birudim he does. That the Koya, the Yochen, Hashem goes on the Eibush himself. Which is the Eibush, which is above Aleisaras. And of course, again, in this Maimah Lechaeir, Aleisaras doesn't only mean the Gili of Ratzin, it means even Ratzin Amuch. Shalai Ichbas Leklal, nothing that we do touches Aden Yochid, Sheresh Hasharatzin, Atzmas Erin which is Kedem Aleisaras. But Akbachinus, Alakul Shem Eslavish, Be'elam is only the levels of godliness that come into the world. In other words, in Atzilus, Avodah Tzedek Avei. Higher than Atzilus, Avodah Lav Tzedek Avei. But then the Rebbe says, the fact that we say that higher than Atzilus Hashem doesn't care about the mitzvahs. In the same breath, we say mitzvahs given to heal, to correct creation. Now, the simple touch of mitzvahs, it means to make us better, the gabe ourselves. But the Rambam saying, no, there's a Kabbalah in this also. It doesn't only mean to make us better, the gabe ourselves, which is, midas tevis, deis nechenes, it has a higher movement. It's understood. That also in the Eibush himself, that we say he doesn't care. It's serving the Eibush within his Neshama alone. But anything that anybody does with the Neshama, Hashem doesn't need, doesn't care about. In other words, when a Yid does not serve Hashem with his Neshama, even to the highest levels, but he serves Hashem with the Nefesh Habahamis and Yeh. This touches Atzmas and Moods. The reason for this is it's all of it is HaKadosh. The pure will and the holy desire, the Asid of Abriyazah, to bring correction to Kli. So, we use these Maimonides Chazal in a variety of different ways, in a variety of different Maimonides. What's negated this Maimon is that Teda mitzvah is only negated to Ishtalshalos. But Birudim is negated to Atmas. But what's the Prat of Birudim? What the Rebbe called Mesiras Nefesh Be'emes, because you're changing your will, that's only in the Nefesh Habahamis. The Rebbe finishes the Mezem movement, which allows us to understand Shavei the Nefesh Habahamis. The work of being clear to the animal soul, which is Tzid of Abriyas, says the Rebbe Magas, but Chinas Atmas Seidin Sev, it touches the Atmas Seidin Sev. Shekedim Alei Saratzim, which is higher than Alei Saratzim, which is, again, he calls it Baal Aratzim, which is why I'm proposing that Kedim Alaysa Ratzin doesn't mean Helam Ratzin or Etzem Ratzin, it means Hayden Ratzin B'Chlal. So we learned Atzmas. 3 shiurim, Yesha, Yigulam, Atzmas. Now the shiurim are not exactly uniform, because in the other 2 shiurim he explained what Yesha is, he explained a little bit what Yigulam is. When it comes to Atzmas, he doesn't explain for 1 minute what Atzmas means. He simply tells you how you get it. And the reason why the Rebbe doesn't explain Atzmas is because there's nothing to explain. You either know it or you don't know it. And tomorrow we'll finish Mitzvah Hashem. Tomorrow is Thursday. So